my name is Genova, and I earned my master's from the University of Texas at Austin in community and regional planning. But I also have a lot of anthropological tendencies. So the presentation you just heard is a great setup, I think, for what I'm going to talk about today. And the title of my presentation is Hasta Utopia Siempre, Conflicting Utopian Ideologies in Havana's Late Socialist Housing Market. So this is going to be talking about some of the changes that we heard about in previous presentations, but also about some of the underlying ideologies and actions that are informing these. So the intentions of my research were to illustrate the current realities of the housing market in Havana today, post Decreto Ley 288 from November of 2011. Also demonstrate how some people are reproducing a socialist utopian narrative in a traditional sense, but also how some are reproducing narratives of the free market. But more prevalent are those that reproduce both of those and are creating a much more hybrid system. And that is what I really believe is the marker of late socialism. So finally, I want to talk about how the Cuban state narrative can actually be seen as a simulation in postmodern terminology, which I'll go into a little later. But first I want to tell a little story about someone that I know in Havana. And this is a guy named Juan, and he's 38 years old, has 2 children, lives in Guanabacoa. He rents an apartment illegally for 30 cuc a month. And there, I met him on the Paseo de Prado in central Havana, wearing a USA t-shirt and a baseball cap. He came up to me and said, "Tienes permuta? Do you have a permuta?" And I was just hanging out. I was doing one of those deep hangouts, really, and spending a lot of time in one place, just seeing what would happen and who I could talk to. And what I found out was, this is a really interesting guy. And he quickly pulled out his wallet with a whole list of certifications and business cards. Turns out he's a state-trained mason. He's a certified agronomist under Decree Law 259. At night, he works as a custodian in one of the bodegas in his neighborhood. And he also has a cuenta propista license as a furniture reupholsterer. Now, in order to supplement his state wages of 450 Cuban pesos a month, about 18 cuc a month, as a custodian, and to be able to pay for his cuenta propista license of 287 Cuban pesos per month, he's also gotten into the business of being a corredor. And being a corredor means that he is an informal real estate agent. And he has sought out new transactions that have become possible recently on the Prado in the street. He's fairly new at this. He's started with a really modest transaction where he met 2 people. He brought 2 people together and sold an apartment in Guanabacoa for 1,000 cuc. Now what he's moving into is trying to find foreign buyers for some of these apartments because he has friends that have had lots of success with this. So what he's normally doing is charging about 10% of the sales price for his services to bring people together, to bring a buyer together and a seller together, or 2 people that want to swap houses. And sometimes he charges fees like taxi rates. Now, the thing about the corredores in Havana is many people refer to them as the Cuban internet because they're the ones that know about everything. They know about opportunities all over town and all over the region. But one of the things that has been most interesting about it, and I know some people have in this room have written about seeking access to certain jobs or certain positions so you can be able to, say, resell something or have an ability to enter a different type of market. What these people now are doing is searching for transactions. Now, quickly, the permuta system that existed until 2011 was one where properties were basically considered equal through a price-fixing measure, and all properties would then be swapped if you wanted to move. You needed to find someone who had a property available and they wanted to move, and then we would switch houses. Compensation was prohibited under the 1989 General Housing Law and prior to that in other laws, and that's been reified really in different laws since then. And the interesting thing about that is that so many of these swaps could be arranged to actually move into a much larger house. I could move from a very small apartment to a very large mansion even through a particularly arranged set of swaps. Now, how did I learn about a lot of this stuff? And I think that's something that's really important. And Roberto really set this up for me in that I did a lot of ethnographic research. There was not a lot of data available that was necessary.